Well, good morning and welcome to Morning at NTV. Today is a Friday, a wonderful day to look back at the week and set your goals for the following week. And as usual, every Friday, we talk about entertainment. And to be part of the conversation, of course, you have to go to our social media platforms, that is on X, Facebook, YouTube, and look out for NTV Uganda. Use the hashtag Morning at NTV, or look out for me at Twitter or X at Idris Matu and tell me what you want to talk about, what you want to hear, do you enjoy about the show. But today we are talking about something quite interesting, and this is the corporate sponsorship of concerts in Uganda. Why is it declining? What could be the reasons and what are the remedies? And in studio I have an art communicator, a music business consultant and ads administrator, Mr. Emma Carlos. Omukulu.
Papa.
Good to have you today.
Thank you.
You're looking fly, like an arts administrator.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. And I'm glad to be at NTV Morning Show.
Wonderful. You look fly.
Thanks.
Someone could think you are an artist or something.
I'm in show business, so...
So you have to show.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Emma.
All right.
Concerts.
Okay.
Nowadays, we've seen a decline in corporate sponsorship or willingness to sponsor these concerts and put money, invest in money. Is that a true statement?
Very true. Good morning, viewers. Once again, I would like to start with a few milestones in the sector in the past 30 days. I would like to congratulate Eddie Kenzo for being appointed Presidential Advisor on Creatives. You have a long task, a huge task ahead of you, but we are here to help you with technical advice. Then 2, yesterday the Parliament was in Gulu, but in the side meetings, the National Culture Forum, there's a team of the National Culture Forum that's in Gulu that was able to present a comprehensive paper on the challenges in the culture and creative industry, what you call the entertainment industry, in line with the Parliament's mandate, which is legislation, appropriation, and oversight. So congratulations to National Culture Forum on behalf of the industry. Now, you're very right. When you called me yesterday about corporate sponsorship and shows, I was able to come up with 5 points. The first one is the initial strategy. What was the initial strategy of these companies? We shall dive into it. Then industry and professionalism by key stakeholders in the show business. And then the industry has grown. Take, for instance, only this weekend, we have over 8 shows. Back in the days, we used to have 1 show. We used to have Chameleon, Hotel Africana, and then it takes you another 3 months and you have a Chigunda in Nachivuo. But now today, this weekend only, we have over what? 8 shows. Then failure in planning by key stakeholders, and then the economy. Now let's start with the initial strategy. When you look, we're going to look at the telecom sector. The telecom sector started booming around about 2003, 2006. The first key players was Celtel in the market. So they took over the entertainment industry. Now the next key player that came into the market was MTN. It had a strategy of market penetration. When it came into the market, it wanted to first penetrate, dominate, and also exhibit arrogancy, what they call corporate arrogance at that time. So when MTN came in to overtake market share from Celtel then, it got all artists then, those Bobby Wine, Chameleon, Blue 3, Juliana on retainer. They used to pay them an average between 8 to 15 million on retainer. Whether you have a gig, whether you're going to do a gig for them, just to make sure that they penetrate the market and dominate it from what? From Celtel. So that was the time. That was their strategy then. And then when it went into corporate arrogance, then also on the side of, let me say, Uganda breweries, there was a time when Nile breweries was shifting from Nile to Club as its flag bearer. And then on the other side of Uganda breweries, shifting from Pilsner to Bale. They also applied the same tactics. Can you believe back in the day, around about 2005, MTN was sponsoring Miss Kawempe at Eden Service Park, but can it do it now? It can't, because now their strategy, changed. They got the numbers they want. So it depends also internally on their strategy. So at that time, it was working for them. Right now, it's not working for them. That's one of the reasons, initial strategy. Now, let's go to the second one, industry and professionalism by key stakeholders. Let me give you an example. When the corporate sponsorship was starting, mainly from breweries and telecoms, there was a time when Obsessions as a group, as a brand, was the biggest brand, entertainment brand in the what? In the country. So companies like MTN, Celtel, Uganda Brewers used to hire Obsessions, and then Obsessions used to hire Silk Mobile and other performers. Then 2 years down the road,
wow,
things shifted. I'm telling you the truth, this is how it used to play. 2 years, Silk Mobile shifted to Silk Events. Now the trends changed. Now telecoms companies and breweries and corporate companies came to Silk Events, now to hire Obsessions, Chameleon. So trends have been coming. Then in came promoters like Abitex, Emaserugo, and the people like that. Now what happened in those times, they used to give you the money. You come with your budget, 100 million, they give you all the budget. You go and operate. Now, in between there are promoters that played unprofessional games. They tell you bring a budget, you say you're going to bring a sound of 30 million, even claim you're going to get it from Kenya. By that time, Kenya had sound. We had a few sounds here, Silk Events and Umoja. You even claim you're getting the sound from where? From Kenya. Then you come to Hotel Africana, let me say Shock for Chameleon, and then the sound is Kabao Mandana. You've, compiled a few things there. So those are some of the reasons corporate companies shifted sponsorship. And then they brought in another tag. To solve that problem, the corporate companies started hiring direct. So now if you're Abitex and you're going to organize a show of Chameleon and you claim you're going to bring Silk Events, now the corporate company started playing Silk Events direct and they give you media. Even they pay the media direct, and then they give you a few things that you need to do. So unprofessionalism also contributed to what? To the deduling corporate sponsorship. Then the industry growth. The industry has grown in heaps and bounds. I've told you when I was opening up that back in the day you used to have like one show. You have one show of Chameleon of Bay Kali at Hotel Africana, it takes another 3 months, then you have another show, then it takes another 3 months, then you have another show. So it was easier for companies to plan and have a few shows sponsored. But now take this weekend alone. We have Mudra, we have Acidic Vocals, we have Papo Pate, we have Jose Chameleon, we have Nyash, we have Nubian Festival, all those shows in just 2 single days, Friday and what? And Saturday. So it becomes cumbersome, or it doesn't make sense, in my view, for them to be everywhere. It dilutes the oomph of corporate what? Sponsorship. So the industry has grown in heaps and bounds. However, companies like MTN have looked at that trend and also innovated new products and services. For instance, MTN now when it comes to shows, it doesn't bring the whole brand of MTN. It just brings a sector of MTN, which is MTN Caller Tune that sponsors that. And then 2, it also brings, it has innovated, it has brought in ticketing. So under those 2 services and products, they can be able to what? To sponsor and also have visibility so that the artist there is proud that it's associated with the brand, and also the brand is also giving back to what? To the society. Then failure in planning. If you look at almost 40% of the shows right now, they're by impulse. I can give you an example of Khalifa Ganaga's show, which was recent at Wankulukugu. The little brother received a slap from a fellow musician. The same day, he produced a song. In the same week, he announced a concert. Now, these corporate companies have calendars. So you can't go to MTN, Uganda Brewers, and you tell them, guys, this is the situation. It can bring numbers. I have a show. They have a calendar that is yearly. Actually, almost all corporate companies start planning in October. Their calendar starts in October, and then they flip back into the next year. So failure by key stakeholders to plan. Now, most of our things are on impulse.
Well, wouldn't an artist like Alien Skin argue that maybe sometimes impulse events?
Yeah. Actually, there's a time when MTN invited stakeholders at their headquarters when they were introducing that ticket. I put up that argument. I told actually one of their, I think it's Paul Okwia, I told him there are times when a show within the middle of the year, it just comes, like the good example is Alien Skin's show. Yes. Then why don't you have a provision within your framework, corporate framework, where on such shows you can support
such impromptu
So he said they will discuss it, but they are so calendar, professionalism, they have their systems around. Then the last thing is the economy. I've been part of creating the document challenges that promoters are facing, and one of the challenges they highlighted in part of venue fees, security fees. They highlighted the reduced number of corporate sponsorship. Right now, if you look at club, they haven't reduced on the number of shows they are sponsoring. However, they have reduced the percentage in terms of corporate sponsorship. For instance, if they have sponsor 100 shows, they have stuck to 100 shows. However, if those 100 shows were to cost them 75 million each, they have cut that by almost 40%. So the economy, I think it goes back to the economy. The economy is not doing well. I don't know why. Almost, because the time I received personally under Twinkle, the time I received sponsorship from Club and Pepsi, if you go back, the money they are giving for these gigs, it doesn't work out. So I think it's part of the economy.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But those are the 5 broad issues that have led to the reduction in corporate sponsorship for show business of late.
Going back to the first point that you mentioned, that way back then, we had few artists.
Yeah, true.
And they were even given retainers, they were paid off. When you compare it to today, do you think the trend of having social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, and having such influencers, because at the bottom line of having an artist on board is to influence the corporate company and to get an audience. Yeah. Do you think also things like social media and technology
you're very right. You're very right, because if you look between 2003 to 2010, let's say, the top training artists were the top 3, and then a few like Kenzo, Good Life that came in. However, right now, if you look at the social media and TikTokers and influencers on Twitter and X, they give the corporate people. I talked to one of people in advertising agencies, and they told me that giving Chameleon show 10 million doesn't give them the media value equivalent that 5 TikTokers or 5 influencers give them, because they see the numbers direct. You see the numbers, someone posts, let me say, a small video or a poster, and then you see the impression there and then, 2 million, 3 million. So it's also shifting from the artists to other players like TikTokers, social influencers like TikTokers and people on X. You're right. They're also shifting from that to that. And then the other thing has been the freedom for broadcasters. Now almost each region has a radio. Back in the day, there were a few players in the sector. You could mention only like 5 radios, 3 TVs, but now everyone. So these guys have to split. If they say that they have $1 billion shillings, they have to split that to also incorporate the other regional radios. So there's been so much growth, so much things have changed, so much trends have come up. So we all have to fight for a small budget that these corporate people have. Yeah. And also they are also finding a challenge to make sure that they patch up and make everyone, have something. Yeah, true.
It goes back to, I think, the quality also of music that people are putting out.
It doesn't matter.
Can that be affecting such?
No. Quality. Let me tell you. As a person,
before we get into that,
quality has never really mattered.
Quality doesn't matter.
Quality has never really mattered.
You at home who's watching Morning at NTV, I tell you, you can be part of this conversation. Go to our social media platforms and look out for NTV Uganda. Use the hashtag Morning at NTV. Tell us, why do you think corporate companies, you could be a CEO, why don't you want to sponsor concerts nowadays? So we shall be back with that conversation and more after this. Welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Idris Matusegawa, and we are talking about the decline in investment by corporate companies in calendar events and concerts around the country. Why is that, and what can be done? Just a reminder, you can be part of the conversation. Just go to our social media platforms. That is on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter, which is now X. Use the hashtag Morning at NTV. Look out for NTV Uganda. Be part of this conversation because it is important to you. And in studio, I'm still with Arts Administrator and Mr. Emma Carlos, who is looking so fly. I am ashamed to be seated next to him. Mr. M,
yes, Chief.
You are dressed to kill today.
Oh, thank you.
Why are you putting me to shame?
Yakuwa designer one.
Oh, why? So, Emma, before the break, we talked about the reasons why probably these corporate companies have decided to go away from investing in calendar events and concerts, and probably saying that, okay, we have other options. What are some of those other options they're investing? Because I know the bottom line and objectives of these companies hasn't changed.
No,
they're just changing how they're dealing about it. So what are they doing? Do you know?
Let's first go back. Before we went into the break, you talked about quality.
Yes.
Let me give you.
Quality,
let me give you two classic artists, and then a setting in like a brewery company.
Yeah.
Now, if you have Maurice Kiria, and then you have Baraka, then you have Lily Pazzo, and let's look at a company like Nile Breweries. They have each product for each artist. Like they would. Well, let's look at Uganda Breweries. They would feel comfortable having Tusker for Maurice Kiria, and then let me say Johnny Walker for Josh Baraka, and then they will have like Pilsner or Ego something for Lily Pazzo. So it's never about quality. All these three artists have different levels of quality of their music. This one has Nkudi, this one has Baraka has a trending song, and then Muskia. So it's never been about what? About quality. I think what influences their corporate sponsorship is the brand of the artists and the numbers they're bringing on the table. It has never been about quality, in my perspective. I don't know what corporate companies are doing, that they have shifted from show corporate sponsorship to what I've seen, what I've noticed, the trends have shifted. They have split their budgets to cover almost everything. So like we said, in the first block, when there was too much corporate hype, that is 2010, that decade, they had a few options, a few top-notch musicians. However, between the last 15 years, things have changed. I think now they are splitting their budgets to cover all the area. Like I said, they're now covering influencers like TikTokers, influencers like on X. They're also covering regional radios, regional other media newspapers. There are so many websites. So I think they are splitting their budgets and products to cover the wider base, in my perspective. And that's the observation I've seen, and that's the true thing they're doing.
From what you're saying, I get the sense that before, 10 years, 20 years ago, there was a monopoly. Yeah, there was a monopoly. A few artists. There was a monopoly. Now the cake is being split into.
There was a monopoly of few artists, and there was a monopoly of few players. Now let me give you one scenario of a corporate sponsored event. Let me say by MTN, it will hire Phenon to do production. But back in the day, Phenon used to do everything. You do talent booking, you do media booking, you do production. Now, strictly Phenon, your specialty is production. Do that. Talent Africa, Twinkle Star Agency, do talent booking and management. A media company, let me say, advertising company like ZK Advertising, do media placements, you understand it? Yeah. But back in the day, there were a few players in the business. But now, specialization is kind of trickling in between the industry, and everyone is playing a role on a single show. You can find like a single company like MTN is hiring 4 professional service providers to do
for a particular event.
Thank you very much. So back in the day, you're right, it used to be monopoly. Yeah. The top 3, Bebe Cool, Bobby Wine, Chameleon, a few Juliana and Irene, a few people like Blue 3, they're dominating the industry. Then in came in Radio and Weasel, Eddie Kenzo, Coco Finger, a few people there, and then they were dominating the industry. So they enjoyed corporate sponsorship to a tune of even 200 million. But now, so many players, industry is getting specialized, so budgets have to be split so that everyone plays their own part.
Emma, one would assume that with how you said specialization, that now we have different people specializing in different aspects of the supply chain of the event.
Yeah, true.
That would actually now call for professionalism.
Yeah, true.
Is there a difference between professionalism in the industry and specialization? Are people still unprofessional?
No.
Although they are specializing?
No. There are few players in this industry that have put their mark in terms of professional. Professionalism comes with specialization. You can't separate specialization with professionalism. So there are a few people, especially in terms of production, that have put their mark.
Yeah.
And like I said, corporate sponsorship hasn't really gone out of the system. MTN, Nile Breweries, Uganda Breweries, banking systems, Stanbic has a product, FlexiCard. They have a calendar, and they have pinpointed a few events and a few artists they are working with. I can give an example of an event like Blankets and Wines. Yeah. So it has stuck with, which product is that? They actually have naming rights. Okay, let's go with that. Let's go with the recent one. Not necessarily a show, but it was a run.
The marathon?
The marathon? Tusker Light Missouri Marathon.
Yes.
So corporate companies have identified a few products in the industry and a few shows and a few artists that they are moving with, and they make sure the suppliers are top notch and the event comes out very well, despite the fact there is a lot of shows within the system. So corporate sponsorships there, like I said, they have calendars and they're working with their people. That's it.
They do not want to experiment and take high risk.
I'll give an example of like this weekend. Imagine if all these shows this weekend were sponsored by MTN. It will lose that oomph of identifying your brand with a unique event. So you're everywhere.
Yes.
And
that's their tagline.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
But it loses that corporate oomph. So I think they identified Purple Party. I think MTN stuck. This week is stuck with Purple Party, which is a clean and swift brand. So that's it. There's too many shows. Uganda is a happy country.
Something you mentioned earlier was the fact that before, corporate companies would go directly to the musician.
Yeah, true. Back in the day.
And say, I'm hiring you, I'm giving you.
Directly, yeah. They used to
and now they're going to
talent agencies, management, production companies.
Why is that?
Because the industry is growing. That's the standard, actually.
But
that's
also
the policy.
musicians had to work with.
Yeah, musicians are hard to work with. I can tell you from experience. 20 years I've been managing artists. They have their issues. So that's why developed companies, these systems came as a result of behavior. So in a fully developed show business, like let's take an example of even our neighbors here in Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria. Actually, in South Africa, you can't operate or get a gig if you don't have an agent, a manager, or a booking agency. If you're not represented well.
Mr. M,
yes,
I would like to thank you so much for coming through. Okay. This is such a conversation that needs another show, and I'm sure to invite you back. And we look at what musicians and the industry can do to actually get back the corporate companies into sponsorship, and probably what can be done. What are the alternatives? Although we are running out of time right now, but I would like to thank you, and I will call you back.
No, but next time you call me back, call either CEO or a marketing manager in one of those corporate companies.
And they tell us why.
So that they also give us, I've given you the perspective of the sector.
Yeah.
They also have to give us the
from
insight.
The corporate company. Of course, but thank you so much.